Welcome back to Sin City Podcast with Vegas. Today I've got Jack Lavey with me. Did I say that right?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay. Thank you for coming. The reason I wanted you on is because I friended you on Facebook. And then I've had several people be like, he's a really good dude, like a super nice guy. And I looked at your stuff a little bit, and you tell us what exactly you do, because when I called you, you were like on the way to Pittsburgh, and then now I don't even know how you made it here today. So I really appreciate your time. And then you're getting ready to go to where this week?
Rutgers this week.
Ruck.
I actually don't. I don't know if it's Rutgers University or if it's Rutgers. Look, I don't know. Pennsylvania.
So
Yeah.
what are you going to be doing in Pennsylvania?
So this is for my professional work that I do, not music related stuff or my art. I work in live production. I've got a couple clients. These particular shows back to back have been for a company called Flow Sports based out of Austin, Texas. They're a sports company. This last week was a grappling event that happened in Pittsburgh, and then next week is a big wrestling tournament happening in Rutgers at Rutgers University. I don't know much about the sports themselves.
Hmm.
I'm just behind the scenes production guy.
Well, when I saw something on Facebook about the wrestling, I thought you two might actually know each other because of the production that you do with the wrestling stuff. And I was like, what a small world! How cool is that? And so tell us about your music. I've seen you. I've seen you on stage once, and you're
Oh,
good.
crazy! Do you know if
It
it
was at the
was
mill.
was it
It was at the mill.
negative? I have not performed at the mill. I think you might
No,
be
that wasn't
mixing.
you.
I think you might be mixing me up with somebody else.
Shit, I feel stupid.
Could be Jared Leto.
It was Jared
Yeah,
Leto.
that makes sense.
Dang. Well, I apologize.
No, it's all good.
Who else in town? No, nobody has this look. This is too good. I don't know. I got
I
no.
mean, I could have performed at the mill, and I just don't remember it.
What kind of music do you perform?
It's too. So my current band act is Grand Kitten. So like you have kids?
Mhm.
I don't have kids. Do you have grandkids? I doubt it.
No.
Okay, yeah. So I don't have grandkids. I don't have kids, but I do have cats, and my cats have had kittens. The band is called Grand Kitten.
That is cute.
It's dumb, but way to remember it. Grand Kitten was a man. So I built my I built my backup plan. You know how like most people in music, like if you don't have a backup plan, you're so screwed.
Yeah.
So like I spent most of my career building my backup plan and then playing music as a side thing. This is the first time I've had like enough money and enough resources to like execute my vision as I wanted it. You know what I mean?
So you're living your dream?
Well, I don't know if carrying an entire van load of gear with an entire light show, all of the band equipment, hiring the guys as secondary guns, and then setting all of that up as a technical wizard, and then having to turn around, put on a cat mask, and like play lead guitar and sing at the same time
That
is
sounds
exactly
like
living the
a
dream.
lot.
Every time I have a motto with my bass player, I told him like any time that I say that I never want to do this again, remind me that it's always worth it. Because every time we do it, and then the feedback after the show, man, it was like we were doing the show a couple months ago, and it was just over here at the West Vigo place that Aaron Norris puts on a lot of the local shows.
Mm.
And I don't care. I'll play for 5 people, play for 20 people, play for whatever.
That's the love.
I've gotten past that a long time ago. So the amount of people there doesn't matter as much to me, because at the end of the day, it's the video clips for online that matters these days
You know
anyway.
what? That's true.
But
Good point.
So we're playing this thing, and man, I had built new stage racks for everything. I had built new light racks so everything could roll in place faster, so we could get in and out within the 15-minute time window with an entire light show, right? Which is insanely hard to do. Everything's like on synced backtracks, but all the backtracks are proper backtracks. Like I'm still playing all the lead parts, the guys playing lead parts. So like all of the main focus stuff is still out front. It's just supporting instruments. And then so that way we can have the synced light show and everything. But like it was grueling. It was so hard. I was already between other jobs, so I didn't really have time to do this show. But I also wanted to give it the best efforts I could. And I told Chris, I said, I don't think I can do this again. He's like, don't forget,
He's
it's
like,
always worth it.
remember.
And I was like, I don't think it is this time. And we played the show. And after the show was over, this young kid came up to me and it was like, okay, I just have to tell you, I'm in tears right now because that is exactly the music that I've always wanted to make and always wanted to hear.
You're kidding.
I thought they
Oh
were.
my God.
You'd think that they're joking, but like the music that I've made with Grand Kitten is so specific. You can't just say that. It's not like it's just pop punk. It's not like it's just metal. It's not punk. It's the Grand Kitten is so specific and so like what do you call it? It's like it's
Eclectic?
it's meant for specifically a group of people. Lyrically, musically, like it is like with my old band Hype War Machine, we could pretty much play anywhere and we'd be fine.
Hmm.
It was like safe. It was rock. It wasn't too heavy. It wasn't too light. With Grand Kitten, it's like I'm gonna turn a lot of people away because they just do not get it. And I've had a lot of fans of my old bands that have literally said to me, "It's like, dude, it seems like what you're doing is really cool, but I don't get it." I'm like, perfect, cool. That's exactly what I wanted because I want that niche audience
Yeah.
that gets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, every once in a while, or not every once in a while, almost every show, you'll get 1 or 2 people that come up that get it. and the tears happen, and then you start having this like really deep philosophical conversation about religion, about what happens in the afterlife, about like all the questions of why we're here and that kind of
I love
stuff.
those kinds of conversations.
Yeah, and that's what the lyrics are all about. I've stripped everything else away because that's been my entire life's pursuit is
Mhm.
trying to figure out what happens after and why we're here and that kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? That's all I'm going to write about now.
I've asked someone this question before. Are you afraid of death?
I'm afraid of eternity.
Ooh, elaborate on that. That was a good answer.
Um, so I grew up fundamental Baptist, and I had uh, essentially the King James Bible shoved down my throat at an early age, and like I was proud of it at an early age. Like I was that kid in like at 4 or 5 years old that was reciting all the Bible verses. I was getting all the Bible awards and that kind of stuff, right? So I grew up with this book that's super deep, and as I got older, I started to see the hypocrisy in it a little bit, and I don't want to say hypocrisy because I don't want to turn people off the wrong way. Understand this is a lifelong journey. I turn 40 next year, so this is something I've questioned my entire life. But when you're told that this is the correct answer from a very early age, you're never able to find it for yourself. And I find that most devout Christians that have really found their faith find it later in life,
Mm-hmm.
and usually it's coming out of something tragic or out of
Experience.
yeah, like they've got a hole,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it comes from like a lot of different things. I don't have that experience. I was the exact opposite. I knew how it all worked. I knew the mechanics behind it, understood, how salvation worked. I understand that we're all sinners when we're born because of Adam and Eve in the garden. And um,
Don't worry about
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
thanks.
no,
Just
no,
make sure it's not me. I forgot to turn my phone off.
no sweat.
So coming out of that with a rejection because of like the plot holes in the story, so to speak. Also slightly autistic, also highly analytical brain, that kind of stuff. It's hard to have faith when like you're highly analytical, right? So, okay, fine. But so you continue this journey. Anyway, I've gotten to a point now where I'd take up the entire podcast talking about it, but basically where I'm at now is I, I at one point had an LSD experience,
Okay.
and I'm not a huge druggie by any means, hardly ever. It's like my first time doing it. That like I felt like in that experience, and like I don't have demons, I don't really
Shadow
mess
work
with
to do, kind
drugs.
of that kind of thing.
Yeah, nothing like that. I was just there to I would say have a good time, but also like I'm still on my journey. I'm still trying to figure out what's after, and I think that's constantly eating at the back of my brain. And in that experience, I met the singular consciousness. And I've had this feeling intuition internally for a long time, and I write about this in my music, which is like I think that there are answers that can't be answered in this existence, in this plane of existence, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that internally we have a connection to the outside, whether you want to call it the spiritual realm, the fifth dimension, whatever. And I think that the only way you can find answers is by going internally. And like when you take something like LSD, you are going heavily internally. You're
Mm-hmm.
diving headfirst into your subconscious. Your subconscious, I think, has a connection to the outside. And in that experience, I felt like I met the singular collective consciousness that we're all part of. And I had this crazy pull towards it, but simultaneously the fear of being pulled towards it that I would lose my individuality.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I was being asked to make a decision. You can either be embraced back into the warm arms of collective consciousness, which is safe and it's comfortable, and it's the same thing I think we experience in like regular human life, which is like sometimes you want to be left alone, but a lot of times you want to be with other people, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But like I knew that that was not what I wanted. I did not want to be absorbed back in it, and maybe that's ego. Maybe that's simply just ego talking. I don't know. But I felt like this, and man, I don't want to side tangent too much, but like when I was a kid, like maybe like five,
No,
six,
take all the
7 years
time you need. This
old.
is what you're here for.
So, because it was interesting because I was actually talking to a guy who recently converted to Christianity at this event in Pittsburgh, and we had a really deep conversation about it. And he was giving me his testimony. And at the end of it, I really appreciate everything he said. But what I said was like, man, when I was like 7 years old, I was with my brother and sister. I think I was with my sister, and they're half brothers and sisters. Doesn't matter. But and I was like sticking my finger in my eyeball because like I was like, I don't feel like this is right. And they're like, what do you mean? I said like, I don't think that this is my body.
Interesting.
I said like um I feel like I'm living through this life as somebody else. That was a long time ago, and I didn't know how to rationalize that as a kid. And as I've gotten older, it's gotten to a place where it's like, yeah, reincarnation,
Do you? I was just going to ask you if you believe in reincarnation.
multiple lives. I've come to this idea that this is like my seventh time around.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know why.
Do you have any idea who you may have been in the
No,
past?
I've thought about doing past regression therapy, but I've just never had time.
I did. I did one
Did
time.
you?
I did.
Okay, tell me about that.
I did. There was one story that because I was hypnotized, obviously, and there was one story that I remember. Every time I drive over a bridge, I get like massive chills and anxiety. And
Okay.
I'm not afraid of heights, and I'm surely not afraid of water because I love it so much. But when I did the past life regression, she told me that I hung myself from a bridge. I was like, okay, well, that would, that makes sense. And I always also, the second thing that she said, I always have this pain in my left side right back here. And it just drives me nuts. I have no idea why. And so what had happened was, um, I was, I can't remember what tribe it was. I was basically the princess because I remember sitting at this fire, and I was with my family, and across the fire was my dad, and he was chief because he had all the accoutrement, and I knew that that was my father, and because he was staring at me with such pride. And then I'm looking over this hill and I'm looking at all the land and I'm thinking, thanking God, thank you. It's so beautiful here. You're just being so, just showing gratitude. And then I feel this sharp pain in my ribs. And I had been shot with an arrow and died in my dad's arms. I'm looking
Oh
down,
my
I'm
gosh.
looking up on my father, looking at me in all of his strength and majesty. And he was just in tears. And I just went away. And
Oh man.
it was a beautiful thing. It kind of helps you find yourself even
Yeah.
more, and I've done microdosing for depression because I
Yeah.
don't like pills.
Yeah.
That really helped me see the light in a couple things. It helped
Mm.
me see the bright side of things. What else? I want to do an ayahuasca retreat
Yeah.
badly because
Yeah.
I have some purging to do. I've got some PTSD, I've got some trauma, and I would like to face the shadow work,
Yeah.
face the demons, and then just purge it. I'm not going to say it'll cure me, but maybe it'll help me.
Yeah.
And running is great. I do like to run, except for when it gets cold and I'm like treadmill girl
Yeah.
all day long. But I think those kinds of things, when you dig that deep within inside yourself and you find yourself, because sometimes people they'll cover up themselves with
Mm.
alcohol
Yeah.
or just pills, and I just don't want to be that person. I want to rid myself of the things that keep me up at night.
Yeah.
And sometimes I take edibles to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And one time, just 2 weeks ago, I took two edibles because my mind would it wouldn't stop. And then I started spiraling into everything that I had repressed and like just completely forgotten about. And I sat up in bed and I was like in tears. I had like a panic attack. I was like, these are things I'm trying not to see. These are things I'm trying not to deal with right now. And I think it's really healthy to face those demons.
Mm.
I even thought about doing ketamine treatments with a doctor. That scares me. The word ketamine terrifies the shit out of me. So I don't know if I'll go there until I know more about it.
Yeah.
I'd really would rather just do the natural things to help with help with my trauma.
Yeah.
Have you ever done anything with like that? Like,
No, my experiences have just been the couple. I think it's twice with LSD, and then I've done mushrooms a couple times. Nothing really outside of that. Nothing with a professional, that's for sure.
yeah.
But
Nate, did you ever discover anything cool about yourself when you're on LS? I did acid. Here's a fun
yeah.
story. I did acid when I was 15 at the Grateful Dead concert before Jerry died,
Oh no.
right?
Yeah.
And me and my girlfriend came home and we were just like, I could not stop laughing. First of all, I'm 15. That's whack.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But, yeah, we were just laughing. And all of a sudden, I just started drawing and coloring. And that was the first time I realized I had any talent.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was
cool.
like, well, it's just like it opens up a side of your brain that you're just like, well, hello there. It's like, nice to meet you, Kelly. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's crazy.
The interesting. That's cool you were able to find that. I have never actually been able to be creative on any kind of substances. I don't. I guess maybe because it's not my pursuit.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas, yeah, it's more I think when I'm there, it's like I'm more focused on discovering, like, I know that I'm connected to an outside world,
Yeah.
and I think I'm so focused on like exploring that I never actually go to a creative brain for some reason.
Do you ever feel that the veil is more thin than
Oh
certain
yeah,
ones sometimes than others?
I think it's massively thin. I think that like, I, yeah,
I think there's like a spiritual
hmm,
warfare thing actually happening like as we speak.
yeah,
Not just to mention the stuff that the polarity that's going on in the world, and we won't go there, but like just like spiritually, I feel like there's a lot of things happening that I don't want to say to prepare for, but just to be mindful of, to keep an open mind about. I think it's always good to learn other people's points of view, no matter what it may be, whether you believe it or not.
yeah, oh yeah,
We don't, like with our daughter, we don't raise her a certain way. We let her know all of the options, and
hmm,
this is how we feel.
yeah,
We believe in God, Jesus Christ, and we also believe in Buddhism and all this, the Eastern things, stuff like that.
hmm,
So I just want her to keep an open mind.
yeah.
I think that's important for her to make her own decisions, stuff
Yeah,
like
I
that.
wish in a lot of ways that I could have had that growing up because, like I said, it was just, this one idea crammed down your throat. And when you start, especially like my parents, they became Christian. I guess my stepmom, she was Christian at an earlier age, but my dad, he converted later. Like he grew up in Catholicism, never was really practicing, and then he converted later. But then for some reason, when I was in third grade, he got called to preach. They moved us up to Northwest Indiana, and I went to a Christian school the rest of my life.
Mhm.
So like when you're,
Pastor's kid.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, sounds
Well,
familiar.
he didn't end up being a pastor, but he went down the rabbit hole of trying to go there.
I
Actually,
apologize. What's the difference between a pastor and a priester?
priest,
So I mean,
priest,
A
pastor,
priester,
yeah, yeah,
priester.
priester. You know, that's who you preach on Easter, I think.
Yeah, you
yeah,
got
yeah.
jokes.
Exactly.
I'll be honest. In my personal opinion, not too much of a difference. I mean, a pastor is someone who you're ordained, right?
Okay.
You can preach without being ordained. You can give a message, you're speaking to a group of people. That's preaching, right?
Okay.
So being ordained through denomination or something like that. I'm a pastor, so
Oh,
so that's kind of. But I love where your mind is,
thank
and so I think for me personally, like I love kind of, I'm a firm believer that no church will ever preach the scripture where it's like, study to find yourself approved.
yeah,
Like, I don't care what you say.
yeah,
I'm gonna do some research,
yeah,
right? I'm not
Fact
just gonna
checks.
believe
That's
it.
so important.
Yes, because some of the stuff's taken out of context, and I think church is a really good use of control.
yeah. It can be, yeah.
As coming from a pastor, it
Hmm.
can be. But I also found churches that are just, I love the idea of God, right? Of course, I'm a firm believer, but God gave us free will.
Mhm.
He gave you a choice, and churches kind of take that choice out.
So I would love to touch on that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Oh man, this is great. Sorry, I know
No,
it's
no,
I know
no,
this is your
absolutely. No, this is
your podcast, Kelly,
we
but
are a family here. We are a
nice.
family. Devin, go ahead,
So
honey. Go ahead.
so I have a this second album I'm working on for Grand Kitten. So the first album was put out last year, Zoocosis.
Yeah, by the way,
Thank you.
I was just listening to some
Oh,
good stuff. Listen
appreciate.
to guitar-led stuff.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Yeah, trying to wrap up. Anyway, so on the second album, first album was more exploration of eternity. I do a lot of more. I'm more of an Old Testament guy. I really love the Old Testament. So a lot of the first album was a lot of Old Testament stuff. But on the second album, I have a song. Right now, it's called titled "Flawed Existence." It won't maintain that title, but it's this grappling that I've had for a really long time with the idea of choice. So the line I have in the song is, would you?" Oh man, I'm not gonna remember it properly. You can never remember lines of songs unless it's actually rolling off the tongue.
Unless you're singing it.
But the general, I want to say the line because it hits harder. But the general concept is the choice is free eternity in heaven.
Yeah.
Like all you got to do is ask for forgiveness, and but the alternative to that choice is
Hell.
burn eternally.
Yes.
How is that a choice?
That's a great question. I think for me personally, the way I like to explain it is that if I'm walking with my son on the sidewalk, right, and I tell him, listen, this sidewalk brings us safety, right? We don't have when you walk with me, I can jump in front. If something happens, I can take care of you. But if you choose to go walk on the street,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
That's going to take, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But I'm going to leave that in your ball court.
Yeah.
Because I want you to walk with me. If someone walks up to us, I can push them out of the way. I can defend you. But if you walk away from me into another location, I don't have that ability to do that. Yeah. But that's your choice. Yeah. And I think that there's so much to. That's the way I would explain that.
Sure.
But I'm also a firm believer in a pastor doesn't have the right to tell you what you need to do because God doesn't do that.
Right.
So I think we lose this whole aspect of like who God truly is. It's like, I want you to love me and I want to love you and I'm going to give you that choice to do so.
Yeah.
But I also believe like pastors, like you have to do this or you're going to, like, yes, but like the truth is, as a pastor, my personal opinion, I had a guy tell me this one time, it's like when a police officer pulls you up and gives you a ticket, it's the judge who makes the deciding factor.
Mm-hmm.
The police officer is like, hey, your and I's idea of the law doesn't align right now.
Yeah.
Here's your ticket to go talk to the judge and you guys can take that up together. Right. So at the end of the day, your walk's your walk. My walk's my walk. We can discuss together what we think is better. But at the end of the day, it's not my business.
But objectively, there is not a better, because if the alternative is eternal damnation, burning forever, that to me is not a choice. That is a fear tactic. Think about an abusive relationship in a relationship with someone where you can either stay with me or you can get the F out of my house and good luck on the streets. You know what I mean? Like that's not a choice then for that person.
It's a you control the better option. I see where you're coming from.
But yeah, because they have full control, right? Which sure, they're the creator, they've made everything right. Sure. But then they also the other side of that coin is like, okay, so okay, that sucks. I don't want to burn in hell forever. So okay, fine, let's live it. So but what what happens in heaven. And from what I was told was that why are we put here? We're put here to glorify God. So the idea of eternity, on the opposite side,
Mhm.
is literally just being there to worship God forever.
What does the word worship mean?
You tell me. You're the pastor.
So
I actually don't know.
it translated the word
Yeah.
worship is to work, right? The
Yeah.
word is to worship. So it's not in my mindset when I was growing up, I'm like I don't want to sit there and sing forever, and no, it's work. We're going to work gardens where there's going to be. I believe that.
So you, I don't know that I believe that there's that kind of thing in heaven.
Sure.
If we're going to be given a second body, a spiritual form,
Yeah.
whatever, and this is analytical brain, right? So like, there's not enough evidence in the Bible, and I don't think that like
Absolutely,
the
there's not.
gospel says it quite right. I think that when they talk about the idea of streets of gold, mansions, this kind of stuff, all that architectural design that they talk about is very like European slash like,
Very similar.
it's
Yeah.
definitely not Asian, that's for sure, right?
Absolutely.
So okay, that gives this idea that this is written by people who are
By
trying.
man.
Sure, exactly right.
Absolutely.
But again, you got humans that are trying to describe the fifth dimensional existence, let's say, or
Yes.
spiritual realm. So in a spiritual realm, like I guess the things that we like in this don't matter because like we don't have a physical body, and I think that like things that are fun in this life wouldn't exist out in the fifth dimensional, especially because there
Maybe.
should be no time anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But then what does that mean, and what does that feel like? And to me, the idea that basically it's it just seems like it's the end of exploration. It seems like it's the end
Yeah.
of like existence, to be honest.
May I
Yeah,
interrupt you?
please.
You said end of existence right
Hmm.
there. So
End of individual existence.
do you believe in afterlife and paranormal? Do you believe in things like that? Or do you believe that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it doesn't matter what I believe. Go.
Well, so I've always said, and you just said a mouthful right there. That was a very interesting, different perspective of heaven for sure. Which I guess I never really thought about what heaven would be like. I've always just told my friends and the family, like, look, when I die, for me, because I feel like I'm a very good person. I feel like Jesus would be proud. He'd be like, "That's my girl. Let's walk. Let's hang." Like I feel like I'm not afraid of death because I think for me it'll be such a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I never gave much thought as to what the beauty would be. I just knew that I would just be in a very beautiful, happy place. I didn't think about buildings. I did think about streams and waterfalls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I never thought about that. And I don't know. Um, I know that in my opinion, there is a heaven, there's a hell. But the thing that questions me, the way that when children pass and they don't just go straight to the light and they're still wandering around, that for me makes me very sad. It's like that's a child. You're seeing this ghost child. Why isn't that child with God where he or they should be? So that's where I get a little gray, and I don't like gray areas. I'm very
Yeah.
black or white, and so there are some things that I question. It's like I wish God can like come down, talk to me, and universe can be like, this is what's going on.
I think we can all agree that is the biggest struggle with any form of
I don't feel like a
There's
child
not
should be in
enough
purgatory.
answers.
Isn't if you're a ghost and you're wandering and you're even is that purgatory? But then on the same token, my dad leaves me messages all the time that he's with me, and that's beautiful. That's comforting, and or he'll come to me. And every person that's close to me that's ever passed away has come to me in a dream, giving me some kind of message. And now that to me doesn't seem like purgatory, or it just seems like a beautiful like an angel
I want to
thing.
connect all of it.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
So like, I appreciate Christianity and the Bible specifically for, I guess, the foundational groundwork of like trying to poke at these ideas that we all feel. So if I could say for a second that like, okay, what if that's not the correct thing? And I'm not saying
Sure.
it's not, but let's just say it's not.
Yeah.
And let's say that every other thing across the globe that tries to figure out what these things that we all feel internally, regardless of books,
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to figure out. To me, it seems like all of these books are trying to suss out what is this. So the idea of like ghosts, paranormal, getting messages from the afterlife. Because I'll tell you a story here in a second about a song I wrote about
Okay.
my wife's dad who passed. But there was, how like in science there's stories about how like two different discoveries will happen at the same time on different parts of the globe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And that'll happen. I want to say in the paranormal world as well. Like there's like connecting points like that where two different people will like get the same message at the same time, like but not that they're not talking, right?
Yeah.
So there's someone recently I was reading about who was talking about this idea of like, and again, if you go to the idea of collective consciousness, we're all part of the same unified substance out there, and maybe that is also God at the same time. I have a friend that has postulated a different theory, which is we're all part of a collective consciousness, singular, but then also there's God. I actually think it's all one, but it doesn't matter. If you start thinking about ghosts, heaven, hell, but it's all singular consciousness and it's all outside dimensional. So like when you take LSD, you're going into this thing, going into your
Mm-hmm.
subconscious, you're tapping into that. There, someone in the art community recently was talking about how like if you when you're writing songs, when you're making art, if you open yourself up, messages will come through you, but you have to be totally like no ego, no anything, just let it,
Hmm.
open up. And that happens for me now. It took a long time to get to this point, but I'm able to kind of bring that in. I'm not necessarily asking for it. I'm just trying to be open to letting something flow through me. And so there's this idea that you have, maybe it's kids, maybe it's your father, maybe it's whoever,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're in ghost form, whether they're in like collective, back in the collective consciousness form, they've maintained individuality in the collective consciousness and they're trying to get messages back in. And they'll do that through people who are open and receptive to it, whether it be a pastor at a pulpit
Yeah.
who's trying to feel the spiritual word of God, or whatever, whether it's an artist trying to write a song. Like that's kind of where my brain goes, that starts to kind of connect all those pieces that we feel. Because if you think about like the paranormal world doesn't really work with the biblical world. The biblical
Mm-hmm.
world doesn't really talk about, ghosts and spirits, but it has the demonic world.
That's where I get confused. And you know what
You
else
have the
confused?
demonic world, but I would also point out, like in the Old Testament, we read about the cloud of witnesses,
Yeah.
right? So I think there's parts that really, but what I tell people all the time is like the Bible was never meant to be a every single answer,
No, of
and
course not.
so many people try to use that as is. Like if it's not in here, it's you're wrong.
Yeah.
But that's
Right.
not true.
Right.
No.
Right. Right.
There's so much into it that it's like the point of our belief is faith. You know what I mean? The point of our belief is faith. But I also believe that like people hurt so many people because of the Bible, right?
Yeah.
I think the one thing that hurts everyone the most is the Bible used wrongly, right? And people need to understand that, man. We can sit down and have a conversation and we can disagree. That doesn't mean that we hate each other. It simply means like, what is your belief? That's what we should be doing is explain to me. I love that thought, and with what you just explained, the spirit. I do believe in the spirit, right? I believe that the spirit can work through a pastor, artist. I believe that we see this through art itself. I believe it can be a good spirit or an evil spirit. I believe in both. Um, and so I think that it all comes down to it's just like you know, God is love. I phrase this Old Testament to New Testament. Jesus says, to do anything for everyone and not love, you have done nothing. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Love is the answer.
Isn't the
True love.
bottom? Isn't the exactly? Isn't
The
the bottom line of any
yes,
religion,
yes,
just be kind to one another?
yes. Now
Just
I
that's
believe
is
that
it
love
really?
can be corrective. I believe, like I love my son, and if he gets too close to the street, I'm just say, hey, come on, please.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
want you to get hurt.
Right.
That's me loving him, and it's not always you're a good boy. You're a good boy. Yeah, go do whatever you. No, like, love is corrective as well, but not condemning, right? It's not my job. God's job is to be the judge. I'm not here to condemn you. I'm not here to condemn anybody. I can tell you what I think. You can tell me what you think, and that's it, dude. We're
I
just
get
trying to live our life.
exactly. I get frustrated with people who so I don't like organized religion. I don't like going to church, but my church is in my car when I'm praying. My church is at the park when I'm walking, my because I take God with me everywhere I go and I pray everywhere I go, So to me that's church and I've not had a good experience in a church because I've been judged harshly
Yeah.
for either sexuality or my tattoos or
Sure.
having a gay daughter, and just like I don't feel comfortable. I feel very I just don't feel comfortable
I'm
there.
gonna take it a step further and back me up because I mean, by what it seems like, you've done a lot of research.
Yeah.
You know a lot. Your car's not a church. It says that we are the church.
Yeah.
You are the church. A car, a building. No,
Right.
that's not a church, man. It says we are the church. Our body, we are the church, right?
Exactly. So
Now,
when
it
people
also
say
says
otherwise, I'm just like, well, who are
now, I
you?
believe that and this gets very misconstrued. This turned to a big religious podcast. I'm sorry, but like what I think got misconstrued, and tell me what you believe on this as well.
Sure.
But when it talks about don't forsake assembly of your, right, and what this is churches push this a lot, and I think a lot of churches push this scripture a lot. I think some can be using it to manipulate. You need to be here, pay your tithe, blah blah blah. We need money. Yes, I agree. But I think that when I love the scripture, don't forsake assembly. What that's saying is, it says in the Bible where two or more gather, He is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to sit in a 2,000 person church.
No.
Right.
You don't need to do that. Now, and you don't have to go to church every Sunday, I don't believe. And right there, a lot of pastors are gonna be like, that pastor needs his license taken away. I believe you need to be there consistently. Because what all church is a group of people to help you. That's what it was designed to be. A group of people. I'm going through something. I just need you to be with me in this time. That's what church is. You know what I mean? Like, tell me what I need to help because I can't figure out this answer. And that's what church is. So I think when people are like, well, they were at the lake last Sunday. Forsake means to completely turn your back and walk away from it.
Mm-hmm.
That is what the Bible is saying.
I couldn't go to a church who would look at me in my face, or not even look me in my face, but judge my daughter for being gay and say
That's harsh. Yeah.
she's going to hell because she's gay. I
Absolutely.
couldn't be associated with a church like that.
I think for me
Or
personally,
tattoos, but that's neither here
where
nor
I
there.
come into play on, and we've talked about this kind of stuff all the time. What I think I come to play on is I hate that certain sins have been like labeled harsher than any other. That's my frustration. Like when a pastor can sit up there and say something about that, and then turn around and go get drunk.
And all liars shall have their place in the
lying, gluttony, dude.
Yeah.
You want to talk about?
I don't think that personally, I don't think being gay is a sin. No, it is of my opinion that God created her just the way she is.
Sure.
And all He did was to create her to love. She just loves women. Well, girls. She's a kid, but you know what I mean. She's just always wanted to marry a princess and adopt babies ever since she was 2 years old. That's all she's ever talked about.
Yeah.
Sure. And I think for me, like at our church, we have we had a couple ladies for almost 10 years who were they were married to each other, and we loved them. They were at all of our events. They came to church every Sunday. We hung out. We had dinner with them all this. I'm not going to judge you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No,
but who are we to judge?
But at the end of the day, I can tell you what I believe. You know what I mean? And that's what's best. This is by what I know. What I know. Do we know everything? No. What I know, what I've spent time learning, I can tell you. But the same thing is like church, we got to be equal across the board. You know what I mean? We're going to hold everybody accountable to be the best we can be. But when I say hold people accountable, I'm not going to hurt somebody.
No.
I love when in the scriptures, Old Testament, or actually this would be New Testament, Jesus hanging out and the disciples are like, you're eating with them?
Oh, yeah.
Those are sinners, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, I love them.
Yep.
That's what I think we've lost.
I think people need to remember that part about Jesus Christ is that he and that Mary Magdalene was not a prostitute. That was like she was actually on his side. Like she was with him. She was his ride or die.
I can't get behind that they were married. I can't get behind that. I think a lot of people push that in that direction. I can't get behind. I believe Mary Magdalene did so much for the movement that Jesus was a part of.
I wish more people would really because
she's a woman.
It's a lot of women were left out. I mean, Lilith. I mean, everything just like all these women got demonized, and really they were just formidable women who said no.
I think you see Paul really stepped on it, like women silent in the church. But when we really read about that scripture, what it was intended was the women were overpowering the men in the church and not allowing the men who God had called. Now, I believe there are so many women in the Bible that when men wouldn't step up, women stepped up.
Yeah, that's Esther.
Esther. All these women that when men would, the woman at the well, no one in that town was living the way they should, and she was the woman who was married 5 times. She was the one who went and spread the gospel in that town. When no man would do nothing, God, So I tell people this all the time. We have women pastors at our church, man. I am a firm believer. Women
need more credit. They really do.
But I also believe that we can't judge from just you're living this life, well, you're living this life. It just goes back to the plank in your eye and the sawdust in yours. It's simply my job to say, as a pastor, listen, you've come to me, and the majority of the time, I'm not going to, unless God tells me to, it's not my business. You know what I mean? If God lays in my heart and he's like, I feel like you need to go talk to them, they're struggling, right? The majority of the time, the people I help, they come to me and they're like, I can't figure this out.
Yeah.
So let's look at it.
That's what I'm here for. Pull up a chair.
Let's talk about it. I tell people, I don't talk unless it's over dinner. Let's go eat. Let's break bread together.
I do love that. I do love that.
Because I can't tell you how to help you if I don't know you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Plus, I just love sitting down to dinner. And anyway, it's just like such a family. Yeah. I really don't know how to put it into words. I just think it's very special.
Just to set up a meeting.
Nah.
Get out of there, dude.
Feed me.
No, let's hang out. What you need?
Exactly. Speaking of which, Reggie's downstairs making steak. So if you want to stay for his amazing steak, because we've got an hour break after this.
Wait, you guys eat this early in the day? What time is it?
Hey. Hey, I haven't eaten yet, man.
I have not either.
Yes, we will be happy to feed you.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
We have to hit on this Jared Leto.
And before we end,
point.
Oh, yeah.
Was it an hour already?
we're sitting at no, we're sitting about 34.
Holy
We're doing
smokes, we're
good.
doing it. I would love to hear more about your music really quick.
It's
Yes,
okay.
because I looked it
This
up.
conversation went
I love
awesome.
this
This
style.
was
I do
exciting.
almost like and you're gonna hate me for saying this. I like almost a census fail kind of feel a little bit. And let
Are
me
you
tell you
sure?
why.
Are you sure you're listening to the right band?
Let me tell you why. Not by the tone or the sound,
Yeah.
by the openness. I
Oh, okay.
love through census fail like
Interesting.
the drums.
I've never listened to Sense Fail, so I actually don't know.
You go
But
look
yeah.
them up.
Okay.
Go listen to their old stuff because you can like the drums in a bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds real.
Yeah.
I love that sound.
Thank you.
So
But no, not Sense Fail.
So what got
It's
you? How did you know you were musically talented? When did you start? Were you playing in
oh
church?
man, no. Actually wasn't allowed to play music growing up.
You weren't allowed to.
Yeah, what I grew up in was like really fundamental Baptist. Like it was like the strictest of the strict type stuff, like very military. When I started having an inclination towards music, I wasn't trying to like be a part of like the choir or anything like that. I was just tinkering around on the piano or like whatever instrument. Like I had a harmonica I bought one
Yeah.
time. But my parents didn't recognize what I was playing. So clearly he's playing something of the devil, right?
Oh no.
And
Yeah.
so like very early on, like I got that I wasn't allowed to play music. I wasn't allowed to, like my sister had a piano, she had piano lessons. I wasn't allowed to touch the piano in the house anymore, that kind of stuff. Now, granted, they had the reasons for that. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was definitely like as I got older, I started to question the book. And as I started to question the book, I started to get into I never got into drugs, never got into alcohol, never got into like girls or anything like that. I just was questioning of this fucking thing that was crammed down my throat.
Yeah.
Like
That's
you're telling me this is correct, but I'm reading it, you're not.
right.
Because I have to, because I'm going through Bible school, and
mm-mm.
this is not adding up for me.
I feel like
Explain
that's
it to
fair.
me.
Yeah.
And then I'm not given the time of day to have a conversation about it because you're just wrong because it's correct.
Oh no. So what was your outlet for that?
Listening to music. And I
There we
wasn't allowed to
go.
listen to music, right? But like when I got to a point where I gave a friend of mine, I saved up my lunch money, and I had to pay my own lunch money too, so I had my own jobs and stuff. But I saved my lunch money. I gave my friend, I don't know, like $40 to go to Radio Shack. Radio Shack had a radio that was like this big. It was like one of the smallest things you could get at that time, right? And a set of earbuds. And my parents like searched my stuff all the time. So like at home, they'd search my room. I think in junior high, I had a Walkman, and I was allowed to have the Walkman because I had preaching tapes. And a friend of mine figured out that we could record music over the preaching tape.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that caught on with the parents, whatever, and eventually I got caught as well. And so ever since that point, my parents started searching my shit all the time. So whether it was the stuff at home, whether it was my locker at school, like I was under
I feel like
constant
that would make
scrutiny.
you want to rebel even like really
Well, so my
rebel.
rebellion came in the form of like, okay, cool. You're gonna tell me this is correct. I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole further than you ever fucking could,
Right?
Yeah.
right? And so I did. You're
So now
like
you're schooling them.
all of these, not just my parents, but like the pastors, like everyone. And so like I started this movement at my school, and it was me, it was my friend Ben, it was my friend John, but like I really felt like I was at the center of it because like I didn't had no other outlets. So it was like this music became the outlet as far as like getting the frustrations out and stuff like that. And then I started writing like lyrics and stuff. And I couldn't play music, but I was writing. But then eventually it was like, okay, we're gonna sit at the front row. Like you could sit wherever we wanted in chapel. We had chapel 3 times a week, that kind of school, whatever. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we had chapel. We had to wear suits on Wednesdays. And so like my friend group, we started sitting in the front row, and we would stare down the pastor when he was preaching. And we would ask questions afterwards when we could ask questions afterwards, that
I
kind
bet
of
it
stuff.
drove him nuts because my
Oh
husband
yeah.
was the same way. He would ask question after question after question. Finally, the Sunday school person was like, "Just stop,
Well,
just stop asking."
Such a red
well,
flag.
and so
Yeah.
and
Red
the
flags.
rebellion came in the form of, okay, here's the plan this year, guys. We're gonna get no demerits. We're gonna get no like demerits. We're getting in trouble for saying things, whatever, right? So like we're gonna be the group that's known as not getting in trouble for anything, but we will be known as the group that does not believe.
Love it.
And that was the thing. And that, I guess, that like between that, writing as much as I could, and then the radio. So the radio was the crazy thing, right? So I got this radio, and it's like tiny, but I'm searched all the time. I can't like hide it in my bag. I can't hide it in my locker. I can't hide
That's
it
so
whatever.
frustrating.
So what I started doing, and this is like very personal, but I started wearing 2 pairs of whitey tighties because I just like early 2000s didn't have boxers yet, whatever. And I had hid the radio in the little pocket of the underwear.
That's awesome.
And I just had to keep it on me at all times. That was the only way I could have it. And so it was with me at school, it was with me at home. And I don't listen to it all the time. When I listened to it, was like I shared a room with my younger brother. He slept in the bunk bed above me. And at 10 o'clock at night, everyone would finally be asleep. We had to keep the door open. There was like absolutely no privacy. And so at 10 o'clock at night, when I could tell that everyone was asleep, I would finally pull that radio out. I would put it under my pillowcase, or inside my pillowcase. So in case my stepmom walked in, at least you couldn't see it. I'd
Right.
wrap one earbud up through the pillow to the top of the pillow, but all still within the pillowcase. And I'd lay down on it, and I'd listen to rock radio for 2 hours every night.
Who would you listen to?
That's my next question.
Well, I mean, it's a radio, right? So it's like I didn't have a real
Choice.
big choice, but like, so I lived in the Chicago area, so it was Q101, Chicago, it was X10, or not X103, it's Indianapolis, Q101, 92.7. I remember like that's when like Adam Carolla's Love Line was like, it would come on at midnight. It pissed me off so much because like I just want to hear the music.
With the music.
But then eventually I started getting into those guys and stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, like as far as the bands that I remember from that era, and granted it's the 2000s. So like, here's the thing. Grand Kitten music is not based on the music I grew up with. Grand Kitten music is based on the early 70s. I didn't grow up with the early 70s. I grew up with no cultural history of music at all. I didn't know nothing. So my only avenue into music, except for like a really early age and maybe like some outside stuff that I didn't really pay attention to,
Right.
because I was too young, was early 2000s new metal. Not necessarily just new metal, but I mean like that's well, yeah, I mean like, so it was rock radio, right? So it was like I remember the first time I heard Disturbed's I think it was Stupefy, and he does the I was wah. It's like, oh my god, that's a crazy, like, it just blows your mind sound wise. I like Chevelle was playing all the time at that point, and like the red
Nice.
just really hits you hard,
My
and
dad
like,
tattooed them, man. They were
yeah.
some good dudes.
And like when Seether came out and they were doing all the early, like, she told me she had a gun, and he's talking more about relationships and stuff, but like Linkin Park was like, big at the time. I remember the first time I heard Mudvayne, and that was like, I didn't really know what he was talking about, but that struck a huge chord. I could tell the depth, the musical depth within that, and that's when like the music started, my brain started kicking in too. It's like, okay, these like my friend was into Static X and stuff, and like Static X was fine, but it didn't have the musical depth of Mudvayne. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where anyway, but that
How many instruments do you play?
whatever it takes.
Really?
Yeah, that is the
That
best
is-
answer.
he's got a lot of
I've
those
ever
today.
heard, dude. That's awesome.
Do you have a favorite one?
Yeah, but primarily I'm a guitar player.
Nice.
I never thought, because I didn't start playing until I was 18. Like
Yeah.
so I left home. I left home.
As soon as possible.
Yeah. So that's another story for another time. I could write a book on that whole situation. But like,
When you tell me the story, I'm picturing the beginning of Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. When he's the kid, and his like dad comes in, it's like very like that Southern Baptist, and he like, I get that vibe.
yeah, maybe. I don't think I ever saw the Big Destiny.
Oh, you gotta watch
Yeah, I
it.
should.
Jack Black can't go wrong.
Yeah. I've heard the music, but I don't
So
saw
do
the
your
movie.
parents, if you don't mind asking, do they listen to your music? Do they come to your shows?
No. So we didn't talk for 8 years after I left home. The first time we talked again was when my dad's dad was about to pass away. Um, they for some reason my parents blamed my grandparents for my leaving. I think because my grandparents took me in first, and that was my dad's mom and his dad, who are the Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
And so they also did not talk to their parents for 8 years. So I didn't talk to my parents for 8 years. They didn't talk to my grandparents
They didn't
for 8
see
years.
that in the mirror.
Complete cutoff.
They didn't look in the mirror. Yeah.
Red flag.
Well, so yeah, I didn't. You just don't think about it, right? I'm now a proper kid getting to live my life for the first time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'd start playing music. But anyway, like, yeah, 8 years later, my grandpa had cancer, but they caught it way too late, and it was just way. And no one had called my dad. Like, none of my family had called my dad, none of my family had called my parents, and I just had this feeling, like, because we didn't know yet for sure, but I just had this feeling, and I was like, I need to call my dad. And so I think I got hold of my stepmom and told them, and then like they were down there like the next day, and then the day after he passed away. So that's the first time I talked to my dad in 8 years. First time he talked to his dad in 8 years, and his dad passed away. I can't imagine
That was such
what that would have been like for him.
you calling your dad to do that was a really man up thing to do. That was a beautiful thing that you did. How did that turn out have you guys spoken? Did that connect you guys after that?
Yeah, it's a little it's the way that I feel now is because we were separated for such a long period of time, and also like, I don't know, because of the way we grew up. Like, my mom my mom left me with my dad when I was 2, my real mom, and me and my real mom were close, but I didn't grow up with her really, so
Yeah.
there's still like a little bit of distance. But then even with that, with my dad, stepmom, and my stepbrother and sister, I never felt like I was part of that family. And again, I go back to that, like, sticking my finger in my eyeball, where I just didn't feel like this was my life anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I feel like I was put
Like in the
here.
wrong body almost, maybe, or just
Well, so I have this idea with, and I think this, I don't want to tie it back to the original, but like, I think that I don't think that reincarnation is. I don't think that when I die, I'm gonna jump into the next body that exists now. I
Mhm.
might go back, because I think that we're supposed to like do this over and over again until you learn what you're supposed to learn. And I'm here in this body.
So hold on.
Yeah.
Like going back and like same person,
Mhm.
same.
No,
life?
no, 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 not this person,
Okay.
right? My spirit,
Yeah.
that is not this person. This person, I think of it like a video game. Like this is just a character, you're a character, you're a character, right? The real us is the spirit beyond the character, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
Yep.
character that like is going to be set up with a certain amount of possible experiences. The Bible says that God's omniscient, all knowing, that kind of stuff, right? And this is a challenge in the Christian religion, which is um then how do we have choice, predestination, that kind of stuff, right? If God knows everything, then how is there true choice? I think there's true choice because I don't think that there's one single way that your life or my life happens. If you think of it like a video game, and I don't want to get into simulation theory, but if you think of it like a video game,
I love that theory, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah, I do too. But if you think of it like a video game, then every character is going to have a set of choices that they can make throughout their life, and every possibility is possible throughout like different, and call it parallel dimensions if you want to call it parallel dimensions. But like my version of playing this character has led
Yes.
me to this podcast right now. A different person who lived this life, they might have actually
Every
they might have
choice
joined the
you make.
military when they were 18 years old, like
Yeah.
I did, but I actually got out before I had started. So I actually was signed up for the military, and I had a cousin who helped me get out. So like literally a week before I was supposed to go to boot camp, we figured out that like I don't have to, that I could still get out, and I was able to avoid the contract, and
Oh, thank
I ended
God.
up going to college instead. But like there's a version of this character that would have
In there.
existed that ended up, and this was 2000. I graduated 2004, so I would have been shipped off to Iraq for sure, and I would have done the Iraq and Afghanistan
Oh,
cert
Every
tour.
choice is a
my
splinter.
God.
I don't know if it's a splinter. I don't even think of it like a splinter. I think of it like literally a video game. Like
I
if
love
you
that.
jump into Skyrim, you could take
Love
your
Skyrim.
character whichever direction you wanted to go. If you Breath of the Wild, whatever game, right? You can take the character anyway. It's not like there's different splinters. It's more just like those games are super open world because I was born the way I was born. Like there's a difference where maybe my mom didn't leave me when I was 2 and I
Yeah.
actually grew up with my mom. So there's that really different difference, right? That's a major splinter. But then there's the minor splinters where I just decide to get up out of this room, leave, and say "fuck you guys," right? Like, that's like that's kind of wicked out of character for like where I'm at this point. So like I think there's major splinters and smaller splinters, but I don't know if there's like 5 parallel universes, 20, or I think there's
Yeah.
infinite possibilities. It
Yes.
doesn't matter because once you're in the fifth dimensional, once you're in collective consciousness, you're able to see the entire skew of everything
Yeah.
all at once. That's omniscience.
That it would make it would it has legs, because why would God be outside if it's just one?
Mhm.
There could be many. I was watching this thing the other day, and this woman was talking about she was going down the rabbit hole of when you're driving and you're texting, you look down and you go up and you swerve real quick,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
like you could have died then,
Mhm.
like
Mm-hmm.
you could have actually died there, and then you jump into another like avenue where you didn't,
Yeah.
and you keep living every single time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so where we could have died, and
I mean,
I
2012 CERN blowing up the universe, and we're in a completely different parallel dimension where everything
now
just
we can
sucks.
jump into the what's it called, the Mandela effects.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The, absolutely.
Those trip me out, the
There's
Mandela
so
effect.
much. But here's the thing: why, as Christians or any belief, can you just say you're wrong?
Because you have a book that says so, and
But-
that's
But that's what I'm saying. I'm like,
Yeah.
like, why can't we just say that kind of is a cool
Or
idea?
at least I hear you.
Yeah,
You know, or
because to me, like that's actually a really cool idea. Like that could
all
make
I'm
sense.
trying to do is connect the dots between all the different books and all the
Sure.
different possibilities and all the things that
Yeah.
and the other thing is, again, and I say this in all my lyrics, like in the Grandkitten, it says, like, I don't think the answers are out here. I think the answers are in here because
So
that's
good.
the connection to the outside.
I love that.
man. Love
This
it, man.
episode's been fantastic.
Absolutely.
What's going on with Grand Kitten? What's your tour dates? Like, what's happening with you
Oh.
right now? Are you guys playing anywhere?
Uh,
Can we come see?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, we're unfortunately, like, I have a real job, and like trying to do the music stuff is very, very, very difficult.
I
So
bet.
right now we're working on the second album. I'm hoping to get Mark in the studio. So I finally finished my last job for the year next week. Not last job for the year, but November's open. I have one job at the beginning of December, and then the rest of December's open. So the rest of this year we'll be hopefully finishing the second album, and then maybe a couple of shows. But then we'll probably start resuming more shows like next
Well,
2026.
if you wouldn't mind, please keep me posted. I'd love
Yeah.
to get Grace and Reggie to come see and just
Hell yeah, thank
that'd
you.
be great. Come support you.
Appreciate that.
And thank you. I appreciate you for being on here. This conversation was amazing.
Thank you.
I did
guys.
not see it going there. I love this, Jack. I'm so grateful for you coming here.
Definitely.
That's amazing.
I've learned a lot.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
I could just
So
sit here
good.
and listen forever. Like I wish we had like forever to talk about.
Well, I appreciate you listening to my babble.
I know, I loved it. You're a very interesting person, and you are just as nice as everyone says that you are.
Thank you.
You do. That's your reputation of being a really nice guy.
Oh,
just so
really?
you know, yeah.
Oh, that's super sweet.
Yeah.
I try to stay above the fray. If there's one thing that I feel like I've learned from Satanism,
Uh huh.
because I read all the books, is that like stay above it. Have your shit together. Do whatever the f you want to do, but have your shit together. If you want to do drugs, you want to smoke pot, you want to drink, you want to do whatever, get your shit together first. Because if you have your shit together, then you can do whatever you want with freedom. But if you don't have your shit together, you can't. But then stay above the fray of all of the bullcrap of like stuff that just does not matter. Get it out of your life.
I think that's a mic drop, Devin. That was great. Seriously, Jack, thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
God, it was really nice meeting you.
You
You're
too.
a really cool guy. Oh my gosh. If you wouldn't mind saying peace, love, and tree hugs, I'd love you forever.
Peace, love, and tree hugs. I love you forever.
I love it.
Oh, Jack, that was.
It's not.